Hi, this is video to support Module 22.1, the operating budget exercise. And see I'm re-recording this video because the previous spreadsheet, actually they kind of expanded the spreadsheet and put some things in there that they were just expecting you to do in your formulas, and so it's made it's caused some confusion for folks. So I'm going to give you a little guidance here and explain kind of how this spreadsheet works. You'll see on page 230 the assignment for this is, it's basically saying that you have you've got a healthcare finance program, and you're about to get something referred to as unfunded mandate. Now, for those of you not familiar with that phrase, an unfunded mandate is the legislature tells you to do something, and they either don't give you any money to do it, or they only give you money to do part of it. And that's essentially what's happening here. That means, for all practical purposes for you, is that you got a lot of ways to do this. They give you a few restrictions, and then it's really up to you as to how you do it. So whatever version that you choose to make, as long as the numbers leave you with a net zero budget, then you're good. Okay. Now note here that in the instructions it says that they're going to give you $30 million for new healthcare claims, but no money for the estimated $25,000 processing costs. So they gave you the money for the claims, just not enough to process it. That's the unfunded mandate part. You got money, but not as much as you need. So essentially, you're going to have to find $25,000 in savings here to basically to pay to expend this money. All right. Now, also demanding other administrative features, but little guidance. So essentially, here's your restrictions. Based on your past payroll patterns, you anticipate 48% of the expenses will be incurred in the first half of the year, 52% in the second half. Benefit ratios are provided in the spreadsheet. That's sort of where some of this has changed from the previous spreadsheet, which, if you've seen that video, that's sort of where this is. Talk about the building lease to the departmental office. This is something you cannot change because you're locked into a lease. You can't move that. Your net legislative adjustments will be $28.75 million. Now, how do you know it's 28.75? Well, that's by the time you subtract all the stuff you need to do, that's what it leaves you with. So this part is sort of a little bit of a red herring, in that as a new analyst, you're not sure what some of the expenditures are for, so your initial proposal will likely be revised, but you've been tasked with making an initial proposal. So in other words, like in the real world, they're saying, I just need you to work up something here for us to discuss, and it has to have a net zero budget. Now, here's the thing. In a net zero budget, this spreadsheet's been designed in such a way that you can wander down here. You get all down here, and right here where it has the legislative adjustments, like the net legislative adjustments, that's where that stuff's going to show up. That actually has to be essentially zero. Now, so this stuff, the scratch pad notes, things like that, that's really not that big a deal. And over here, the self-checking, some of these, like especially in this section, probably going to show up false no matter what you do because they changed this. But this is actually looking for the formula. It's looking for the formula I used before, which is not what they did here. All right. So like here, your net legislative adjustment is $28,750. When you've made all your adjustments, that's the increase of the $30 million, all right, and then the decrease of the $25,000, where you have to pay for that. That means this number, when all said and done, should be zero. There should be nothing here, all right. Generally doesn't say general. Generally has like a little dash like this. So that's what you're looking for if everything balanced right. Now, here's the deal. Now, I'm going to have to bear with me here because I have to bounce back and forth between a couple of screens, and I'll kind of walk you through the general idea here. Okay, let's see. Find where's my proposal here? Because you got to pop this stuff in. Your adjustments. All right, you're going to have to make some adjustments here. Now, kind of just, all right. Let me start with this so that you understand this. Typically, in a legislative budget, or frankly even a city budget, departmental budget, generally you break the budget up by items where, like the budget for this medical claims or whatever your division is, it's the 2000 series, all right? And then so generally break it up into 100, and then anything that's related to that is like a 120, 140, 160, 2000. So you basically use like round general numbers. And so in the future, somebody says, well, this is going to be a 2300 series issue. Well, 2300 is the professional services and related. That includes 2301 financial, 2305 legal, 2306 consultant. All right. Same with the 2500. If it's a 2500 series mini budget, that's your information management here. And so everything related to that is a line item under that. That's a pretty common way of doing this, and it allows you to have little, kind of broken down into little mini budgets. Makes it easier to see in general where your stuff's going because you have a bottom line number, a total for each one of these, right? And that way, if you can compare those year to year and see whether, for example, is it salaries and wages going up or down, payroll tax and benefits up or down. And remember, since most of these are variable benefits, and the variable benefits vary with the salary, if your FICA benefit is 6.2%, those are fixed ratios, so all you have to do is multiply that times your whatever your operating plan gives you, and that's going to be your FICA payment. Same with the health insurance, unemployment, workman's comp, so on and so forth. These are all pretty straightforward. The old one didn't put this in here. You had to do them in manually, so that's a new column. Same thing over here where they played with the numbers. You just stuck, in the old one you stuck in the numbers here. Now they want you to refer to the cell because supposedly that's easier. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but they did not ask me. Okay. Healthcare. First, put in the numbers that you know you're going to have to work with. All right. The legislature gave you $30 million. Now these numbers are in. See that? Numbers are in the thousands. So you're going to have to pull 3 zeros off whatever you stick in there. So remember that each one of these whole numbers, essentially in the real world, there's 3 more zeros on this before the decimal point. All right? So that's not $90, that's 90,000. That's not 10,000, that's 10 million. Okay? So keep that in mind. The only reason you do that is so that the numbers are easier to work with. They're smaller and handier. You put them in the thousands. There's nothing wrong. If you want to put those in there in the millions with the actual number, hey, more power to you. I don't care, but it's a little easier if the numbers don't look so giant because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter. It's the scale you're looking at, and it's easier to work with if you don't have a bunch of extra zeros to type. No skin off my tail if you decide in the real world you want to do it some other way. Don't care. It's Excel. Excel will do the math. It doesn't matter. All right. So we know that we have in the past the proposal was for 400,000, which is remember it's essentially 400 million. We're talking about adjusting this by 30 million. Therefore, we need to put in, all right, 30,000, because remember it's in the thousands, so that's now 30 million. You'll notice over here under the operating plan, this is the proposal. This is the legislature has said to do this, all right. the adjustment is this. Over here on the notes, you would put something like legislative decision. Shoot, I even spelled most of that right. Typing is not my forte. So anytime you make a change in your budget, I'll make a note, more than anything, making a note to you. So somebody said, well, why did you do this? Well, this is why I did it. Because at the point you're kind of into this, you're focusing all your attention on it, and a week later, somebody, or a month, or 6 months later, when somebody's actually looking at it, they're going to want to know why, and you've got notes to show it. You could very easily just had a list here and just had one column where you do all this stuff, but then you end up with changes being made, and God only knows if you remember what your thought process was at the time. That's why you kind of spread it out. You do it like this. And in this case, what do we do here? We're going to break out into quarters. And this is fairly simple. All right. So we know that we're going to add 30 million to the 400 million we have, and that's reflected here. Okay? And then you'll see that it's also copied over here to the operating plan, because this is your quarterly operating plan. This over here is this broken up by quarters. Okay? Now, you also know that you've not been given, you know that it's going to cost you $25,000 for claims processing, right? So you're going to have to add $25,000, all right? So that's moved your 10 million to 10,025,000. Now, see what this did here, all right? Essentially, between what's been added to your plan, you have to make this be zero. The only way to make this be zero is you're going to have to reduce things here that you'll have whatever you can reduce to get that to zero. Now, you know, for example, like your where is it? Rent, right? You're on a lease. You don't get to alter that. Therefore, you can't do anything with that. You know, so look at the things you can alter, and kind of look at like where, for example, you might be able to cut. And we'll just say, for sake of argument, you can't do it up here. We've already sort of predetermined that, you know, here's what you need for these folks, and you're actually, essentially, you're delaying the hiring of one person. That's why there's 48% in this quarter 1 and 2, and 52, and it was 24 and 24, and 26 and 26. That's where that comes from, right? And that's back here. 48% in the first half, 52 in the second half, quarterly, divide those by 2. That's where that number comes from, right? Now, you can look at things like, you know, really can't do anything, again, with this area because this is tied to this, right? So where else can we maybe cut things? You budget, say, $725 for travel. And I say this is completely random on my part. I'm not implying this is the best place to do it. I'm just saying this is where. All right. So now I've saved 300 down to 975. Kind of looking for the bigger things. All right. Say we delay half of the furniture and equipment expenditure. Now we're down to 725. These are sort of subscriptions and fees. You know, hard telling what you can do with that. Keep looking for things. Consultant fees, maybe you can cut your consultant fees. And remember to put these in parentheses so that they're treated as a negative. You can also just enter them as a negative and it'll stick it in that way. Now we're down to 525, so we got to find some more savings. Can't really do a whole lot there. Maybe we can cut a little bit off the janitorial cost. All right, maybe we could change phone providers, and maybe we can save 100 there. All right, where are we now? Down to 402. So this is how you have to keep trainings and conferences. You know, we got to come up with this. We got to fill this hole. So just say, hey, this year nobody's going to training or conference. And again, I don't really care how you do it. I'm just sticking in the numbers here. Down to 164. Posting and shipping, duplicating. Maybe we can cut our duplication costs down. I don't know, by down by 50,000. Posting and shipping. Maybe we can bulk rate things or something. Maybe we can get another 50 out of that. Now what are we looking at? 64. Say for example, we can say we can defer. Well, we'll just say we're just going to defer 64 million computer maintenance, or 64,000. I mean computer maintenance. Poof, we have zeroed this out. So essentially, what we did was we were able to add 30 million. We had to come up with payment on 25,000. All right, now we've essentially zeroed this out. All right. So then, and again, do it however you like. Doesn't matter. It's all good. Now, I'll show you how to do, say, one of these up here. And I didn't put the notes in there because I showed you how to do one. So do your own freaking note. Okay. This over here where sort of makes sense. Officers and directors, when you're working with the salaries, all right, you know what the operating plan shows. It's 90,000. All right. Now, to figure out how this is going to work out quarterly, all right, you're going to up there. All right. Just roll up here. All right. Where'd you go? J6 times K3. All right. So essentially here, we're going to split this out by quarter, right? So here, what I've done for quarter one is I multiplied the operating plan amount by K3, which is 25%, which is 1/4. Now, honestly, in the real world, this to me, this is a little confusing, and I didn't really like how they changed this. Essentially, you know, what you could have done was just J6, which is this, times 0.25, which is what you used to do, all right? So essentially, you do this straight across the board, all right? Now, salaries, here's where things get interesting. Now, when it comes to salaries, you're going to do equals K4, right? K4, which is the 24%. Remember from the remember here, it says 48% of your salary expenses are going to be in the first half of the year, 52 in the second. So there's 2 quarters each way. So half of that is 24. Right? So 24. So instead of just saying this times 0.24, we're gonna do a cell reference to 24%. So apparently that is a fine way to do this. Oops. I'm just going to stick it in like that. That works. All right. So let's see. Where's my 7 times 4, 4. All right. Yeah, and so you'll do the same thing. Now you get over here, it's going to be equals, and this will be identical to this one, 2400, but over here, it's going to be this times this, right? So 2400 versus 2600, and of course quarter 4 will be the same, right? These two together are going to be your 48%. These two together will be the 52%. Essentially, what happened, and they didn't carry this over from the last edition of the problem in the book, you basically waited to hire somebody for 6 months to save money, and if, like over here, if you want to change this to where you're saying, I don't know, say you're going to save, you know, X amount of dollars on your stuff. See, it just recalculates this. Everything recalculates the amount you actually saved, right? So like here, you would be off that amount, right up here, but it's easily enough to not use it. I decided when I'm doing this not to cut salaries, all right? So when the numbers add up, the numbers are all end up being right, and don't ignore that, because that is calculating, not recalculating properly. So we did it right over here in the first. This is how you get your checks. Then ultimately everything's going to add up, and when you do that, your number should work. This number should be the same as everything on your check. This side should be the same as this. If it's not, there's a problem. Okay, now payroll taxes and benefits. I'll just do one of these so you can see how this works. Yeah, get off here. So essentially, what you're going to do, like for quarter 1, and for your FICA, all right, you're going to multiply. Let's see, K9 is total salaries and wages, which I'm going to put the rest of those in there, I guess. It'll be K9 times C12, which is times C12, get over here, which is the 6.20%. All right. Now this number's a little off because I don't have all of the I don't have all the wages in there. This one ends up being it's the same as it's going to be equals J8, which is this, times 24%. Right. So anyway, that's how you end up with the that's how you end up with your numbers. And I actually put that in the wrong cell, obviously. Doofus. All right. You actually go right there. There. All right. And so FICA for the $2,501.22 a month for the officers, directors, salaries, and wages adds up. It's 66.2% of that. So in the first quarter, you're going to owe, you're going to have $155.08 being FICA share. See, FICA at 6.2. Now overall, you're estimated to be 645.92. So as you work this across, you know, this added up times 6.2, it should be 155.08, and then these added up times 6.2 should be 58% of the 2 quarters, right? Should be 58 or 52% of 645.92. So all you're doing is just doing the multiplication here and referring to cells instead of sticking it in your formula. And like I said, don't worry too much. Some of these when they changed this, they didn't change the self-check module, and I haven't been able to fix it and make it work. So what I am looking for is this being 0. And so ignore the 2250 because I just broke it when I was playing with it. But as long as that's 0, and you haven't tried to like save money off like your rent because you have any control over that, you know, obvious stuff. You didn't try to screw one particular thing. You trimmed a little here and there till you got down to 0. And then as long as your numbers over here add up, and like simply these things are this times 25% across the board. The only thing that's not that number times 0.25 across quarters are right here, right? Because, and all of this stuff is dependent on this, which you've already calculated using 24, 24, 26, and 26. Nice and simple, okay? You do those right down the board. All your base stuff should add up. Don't get torqued if you find falses over here. Most of these will turn true. Some of them will not. I don't expect any of those to because last 2 times I've taught this course, and I went in, I tried to fix what they did, and it is not working for me. So I don't worry about that. This is what I'm worried about. If this adds up to 0, and you parted these out by quarter appropriately, I'm happy with the spreadsheet. All right. If you have any questions about details or whether you think you can or can't do something, please shoot me an email and a copy of your spreadsheet, and I will provide you help.